school football senior night. Tonight marks the final home game for those members of our varsity football team who will be graduating this spring. We'd like to take a few minutes tonight to honor our 35 seniors. With these young men, we'd also like to honor their parents for the support of their sons and our Archbishop High School. To celebrate our senior athletes, Archbishop awards senior medals. Presenting this medal will be Athletic Director Brian Eagleson, joined by the head of our football program, Danny Sullivan. Each senior will be introduced and accompanied by their parents. Our first senior today is number 1, Wills Towers, joined by his parents, Helen and Simon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Foothill College Senior Night for our varsity football team. And before we get into our pregame, let's turn it over to our public address announcer, Andre Polizzi, to honor tonight's seniors.
Our next senior is number 3, Benjamin Kim, joined by his parents, Michelle and Michael. Up next, number 4, Ryan Marquardt. Ryan's with his parents, Joan and Fred. Up next is number 5, Diego Aguilar. Diego's with his parents, Julio and Lourdes. Up next, number 7, Tai Yoshida. Tai is joined by his parents, Kristen and Kate Shiro. Up next, number 8, Charlie Butler. Charlie and his parents, Michael and Samantha. Our next senior is number 10, Danny Scudero. Danny with his parents, Dan and Lisa. Up next, number 11, Quincy Sprague, joined by his parents, Errol and Stacy. Up next, number 12, Madav Lopez, joined by his parents, Griselle and Brenda. Up next, number 13, James Sirapope, joined by his parents, Sarah and Cheos. Up next, number 15, Austin Barbo, joined by his parents, Therese and Christian. And now number 17, Ronnie Gillette. Ronnie with his parents, Tomo and Dara. Our next senior is number 18, Justice Toavalu. He's joined by his father, Celie, and grandmother, Aileen. Up next, number 20, Eduardo Campo, joined by his parents, Eduardo and Nolia. Up next, number 22, Connor Elliott, joined by his parents, Dave and Lisa. Up next is number 24, Zakiah Posey, joined by his parents, Byron and Shirley. senior, number 26, Jaden Batto. He's joined by his brother Jairus. Up next, number 27, Stephen Anaya. Up next, number 28, Albert Wine. Joined by his parents, CG and Tony. Now number 30, Nick Diaz. Joined by his parents, Candida and Pedro. Up next, number 33, Jacob Nettich. Joined by his parents, Sean and Marcy. Our next senior, number 43, Victor Murray. Joined by his parents, Stephanie and Victor. Next senior is number 44, Evan Dexter. Joined by his parents, Kathy and Brad. Up next, number 51, Cole Mazuka. Joined by his parents, Jennifer and Matt.
Zion! Her dad, oh, his dad thought it was me.
Number 52, Jason Khalid.
He thought it was me.
Joined by his parents, John and Beth. Next senior is number 54, Lucas Walker. Joined by his parents, Lori and Greg. Up next, number 55, Jaden Conover. Joined by his parents, Lisa and Cliff. Up next, number 56, Tyler Arimu. Joined by his parents, Johnson and Patsy. Our next senior is number 57, Daniel Barton. Joined by his parents, Jeff and Debbie. Our next senior is number 66, Antonio Cueva. Joined by his parents, Antonio and Mike Chief. Next senior is number 73, Michael Forney. Joined by his parents, Michael and Pauline. Our next senior is number 80, Parker Shiemski. Joined by his parents, Karen and Brian. Up next, number 84, Jackson Wright. Joined by his parents, John and Jacqueline. And our final senior of the night is number 87, Benjamin Beresnik. He's joined by his parents, Caitlin and
What
Bradley.
are you right now, 87? Yeah. Is there 87?
All right, we would also like to honor our senior athletic training assistants, Allison Nadia, Chittagong Morosi, Sienna Flores, Reese Bartlett, Rohan Balari, and Melina Guardino. Thank you to all of you for the support you have provided the athletics programs over the past 4 years. On behalf of our entire school community, we thank our senior athletes for their countless hours of commitment to their sport and their school, and to their their parents, we thank you for entrusting us with your son. We also congratulate the seniors from St. Francis. On behalf of Archbishop Minnie, we wish you a successful rest of your senior year and season. Good luck to both teams tonight. One more time, your 2022 Archbishop Minnie senior class.
And there you have it. Introduction of the huge senior class for the Monarchs this year, along with their parents. And a warm reception given to them by classmates, faculty members, alums, and other family here joining tonight for Senior Night 2022. We'll be right back in just a few minutes to give you some pregame thoughts ahead of the kickoff between Archbishop Mitty and St. Francis. We'll be right back.
I am a Monarch.
And welcome back once again, Foothill College. Week 10 of the high school football season, week 7 here in the WCAL. And we've got a real treat for you tonight. Longtime South Bay rivals, the visiting St. Francis Lancers, just across town in Mountain View, making their way up the hill to take on the Monarchs in the final regular season match. A lot on the line tonight for these two teams. The Monarchs entering tonight's game with an overall record of 7-2, 4-2 in league, one game behind St. Francis, who entered tonight's contest at a WCAL record of 5-1, currently in second place, 6-3 overall. Lots of permutations on the line for CCS playoff seeding, hosting. The two most simple solutions: if the Monarchs were to win tonight, they would clinch a share of second place in the WCL and likely a home game in the CCS playoffs beginning next weekend. Conversely, if the Lancers manage to get a result here at Foothill College tonight, they will almost certainly finish alone in second place, improving their seeding options. They too likely to be a host site in the opening round next Friday night. So there's a lot to play for tonight. The Lancers riding a 5-game winning streak into tonight's contest. The last game that St. Francis dropped was way back on September 23rd, a home game against league leaders Sarah. They lost that game 29-7, and since then they have been absolutely perfect with wins against St. Ignatius, Sacred Heart Cathedral, Valley Christian, Archbishop Reardon, and last weekend's big 31-17 home win over Bellarmine. The big question tonight for St. Francis is, will he or won't he? He being, of course, senior quarterback Matt Doherty. Doherty, knocked out of the game and replaced by sophomore Aaron Knapp. Knapp performed admirably in that game, steadying the ship and leading the Lancers to a big win over the Bells. And we will remain waiting to see if Doherty returns to the field. We'll talk about the Monarchs in just a moment, but let's take a moment to honor America with the playing of our national anthem.
And all of us gathered here tonight, our student athletes, coaches, officials, parents, fans, and staff. Keep our players and officials free from injury while they're out on the field tonight, and remind us of our mutual mission to love and respect one another. We ask this in the name of Jesus, your Son. Amen. Please remain standing here to perform the Star-Spangled Banner live. The Archbishop Eddie Pep Band under the direction of Anya Danes.
And the Archbishop MIDI Band performing their rendition of the national anthem here on senior night, Foothill Junior College. Speaking of quarterbacks, senior quarterback Wills Towers making a return to the lineup last week up on top of the hill at Valley Christian, leading the team to a big away win. In that game, Towers throwing for 203 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air. He also gained 48 yards on the ground and scored a TD on his own in that win. Big 35-21 victory over Valley Christian to set up this showdown tonight with the old enemy, St. Francis Lancers. This rivalry is one of the most rich and storied ones in the WCAL. Many of these young men growing up as schoolmates with one another prior to high school, and so they'll know one another well. Statistically, these teams line up very close over the course of the first 9 games of the season. And so it'll be an interesting early part of the game to see who can establish their pattern of play early on. St. Francis has chosen to kick away. Justice Tuavalo back to kick return, along with his offensive partner, senior Danny Scudero. And you know that the Lancers will certainly be aware of Scudero's ability in the open field and his unmatched speed. Number 28, Chris Hahn, junior place kicker, will put it on the tee to get us started tonight. We're glad you could join us. Pull up a chair, make yourself comfortable. You're in for a treat. The Lancers and the Monarchs are underway here at Foothill College. Hahn's kick bounces awkwardly for Tuavalu, who picks up the loose ball, but he's penned in just about at the 10-yard line. And so that driven squib kick by Hahn accomplishes what he'd set out to do. Justice tied up on that. Finally regained possession, but not before the Lancers were able to close in on their kick coverage lanes. And the Monarchs will start from their own 10-yard line, and that'll bring out Wills Towers and the offense. Towers joined in the backfield by Tuavalo with 3 receivers to the bottom of your screen. And on first down, he looks to throw, and he's got a receiver over the middle, and that pass is complete. Number 9, Caden Allard. Allard having a great run of games over the last handful of contests. A 13-yard reception, good enough for a first down. And Tuavalo remains the lone setback. Towers takes the snap, checks off his first receiver, and finds Danny Scudero for a short gain. And this brings up a talking point that we've touched on a number of times this season, the patience of senior quarterback Wills Towers to stand back in his backfield and go through checking off various receivers that he was able to find Scudero there. Delayed handoff that time. Goes to Justice Tuavalo. He rumbles forward for possibly a yard, and that'll bring up 3rd and 8. But again, Towers showing a lot of composure in the backfield. And he's going to need that tonight with this very aggressive front line and linebacking core of the Lancers. Towers takes a look downfield, stands, he's flushed out of the pocket, finds a secondary receiver. That was Caden Allard, unable to lock that one in. And so, failing to convert on 3rd down, we'll bring out the punt unit, and we'll get our first look tonight at number 36, Dylan Boomer Oline. First punt of the evening. And a bad snap there. And that's not what the Monarchs were hoping for. A rough snap and that punt blocked. And definitely a blown blocking assignment there. There'll be some discussions about that with the special teams coaches on the sideline. But in the meantime, the Lancer offense coming out to the field. And Aaron Knapp is under center, so the sophomore starting tonight. His handoff to Kianuanu, and right away the Lancers impose themselves, taking advantage of the big turnover on that block punt. And on the first play from scrimmage, they punch one in for a touchdown. And that'll bring Chris Hahn out for the point after attempt. Hahn's kick is up and good. And with 9:54 left on the clock in the first quarter of play, it's St. Francis 7, Archbishop Mitty nothing. So certainly not the start that head coach Danny Sullivan would have hoped for. Senior night in most sports can be a two-edged sword, a great opportunity for the families and the players to soak in the adulation of the home fans. Unfortunately, more often than not, it tends to bleed off a little of the focus, and that may have been the case that led to that blocked punt. The good news, of course, is that there is plenty of football left to be played, and the Monarchs will be looking to steady themselves. This time, Danny Scudero back to receive the kick again, this time joined by number 3, Ben Kim. And Chris Hahn with his second kickoff of the night. Again, a squibbing drive, but not before a flag is dropped. And that's generally an offside call, which will march the ball back 5 yards. So it's quite apparent from these first 2 kicks that St. Francis head coach Greg Calcagno has no intention of putting the ball into the hands of Danny Scudero if he can avoid it. The first 2 kickoffs of the evening, driven squibs on the ground, and the Lancers content to sacrifice some yardage on these kicks to avoid Scudero getting his hands on the ball and potentially breaking a big return. Ball marched back to the Lancers' own 35-yard line, and Hahn will have another go at it. And again, a driven squib kick, and it's Scudero fielding the ball at his own 20-yard line and gets his feet a little tangled up underneath him and goes down. And check that was senior Ben Kim. So the Monarchs having a little trouble with their kick return execution early. You recall the opening kickoff was fumbled by number 18, Justice Tuavalu. Managed to recover that fumble, was tackled at his own 10-yard line and created a difficult situation in terms of field position. Danny Scudero put in motion, delayed handoff, and Wills Towers actually pulls that ball back down and rumbles forward on the quarterback keeper. Great ball fake that time by the senior quarterback. He certainly fooled this announcer. 2 receivers split to the bottom of the screen with the 2 receivers at the top. Delayed handoff. And Tuavalu stays down after that hit. And the training staff immediately out on the field. Justice rumbled forward on that. And as you could see from the replay, he landed a little awkwardly on that left shoulder. And we'll have to wait to see just exactly what the situation is. Training staff, along with Danny Sullivan and a couple of the coaches, looking Justice over and helping him up now to a seated position. And between that injury and the early touchdown surrendered to the Lancers, the crowd a little reserved right now. Justice back on his feet, being helped off the field, and the fans applaud him, hope to see him back. With But that'll bring number 6, A.J. Senazal, into the backfield. Ben Kim split wide to the right with Scudero in the slot. Towers looks downfield. He's got a man open. That's Ben Kim. And Kim hauls that pass in for a big, big play. Well, Wills Towers did a heck of a job on that play, letting the pattern develop. Kim split into the seam between the cornerback and the safety, and then demonstrated the kind of concentration that he has used all season long to be really one of the clutch receivers in the Central Coast section. Great job by number 3, Ben Kim. And that moves the ball deep into the red zone. Towers takes the snap. He's got a receiver open. And that pass just a little too long. Number 8, Charlie Butler, the intended receiver. But the Monarchs showing that they have no intention of going away despite surrendering that early touchdown. Excellent pass coverage for the most part on both these opening series, and Towers standing tall in the pocket and getting a lot of time to look over his receivers. Senazal, the lone back. And AJ takes the handoff and is met by a group of Lancers who drop him for about a 4-yard loss. That'll bring up a 3rd and 14 from the Lancer 21-yard line. Scudero and Ben Kim at the bottom of your screen. Towers finds Charlie Butler. Check that. That is Danny Scudero. And there is a flag on the play. Officials talking this one over. And if that is against the Lancers, that catch and run will be good enough for a first down. But unfortunately, off an illegal block downfield, you'll chalk that one off. And so what was an excellent effort by Scudero, the run after the catch, will be wiped off. And the Monarchs will have to reset and do it all over again. Result in a 3rd and 9. So a few yards actually gained out of that. Ben Kim, again to the bottom of your screen with Scudero in the slot. Towers steps back in the pocket looking. He's got a man open. But a great defensive play. Number 32, Mac Mrokwa. And that'll bring up a 4th and 9. And out comes number 17, Rade Galeb, to attempt what looks to be about a 34-yard field goal to break the seal for the Monarchs. Gallup, member of the men's varsity soccer team, certainly has the leg and the range for this. Number 7, Tai Yoshida, will be the holder. Yoshida gets it down. And there is another blocked kick. Riley Long on the play this time for the Lancers, blocking that kick. And so 2 possessions in a row have ended for the Monarchs with blocked kicks. First, a punt by Dylan O'Lean that was blocked deep in his own half, and then Roddy Gallup's 34-yard field goal attempt blocked. And now the Lancers take over at their own 40-yard line. Knapp hands off to Keanu Anu. And he rumbles forward for about 7 yards. Keanu Anu, the leading rusher for the Monarchs, or for the Lancers this year. Entering this contest with 603 yards on the season and showing some nifty footwork on that last carry. Knapp pulls that one down and connects with number 8, Ned Regelis. But this one looks like it may be coming back, as we have a flag in a part of the field that that'll be an illegal man downfield on the Lancers, and so that play will be brought back. So Archbishop Mitty catching a little bit of a break there on the offensive penalty against the Lancers. That marches them back 5 yards. And they'll repeat second down, this time a 2nd and 8 from their own 42-yard line. So Knapp, the sophomore quarterback who we discussed in the pregame, starting tonight. Over the injured number 6, Matt Doherty. And Knapp hands off once again. Keanu Anu, the ball carrier on that last play again. And you can see that the Lancers content to keep the ball on the ground and pound away. Last run brings up a 3rd and 3. And the senior rumbles forward again. The 6'1" senior picking up more than enough yardage to move the sticks and give the Lancers a first down. So nothing fancy here up to this point from St. Francis. Straight ahead running. And Knapp hands off the ball again. And Keanu Anu brought down after a little second effort. credit him with, make it about a yard. 2nd and 9. So St. Francis' philosophy thus far has been, we will run this until you stop this. Pitch goes to number 16, Bryce Luna. And Luna cuts back against the grain, looking for something that was not there. And he gets perhaps a yard. And that's going to bring up a 3rd and long 8. Possible passing situation here will give us an opportunity to see Aaron Knapp in action, this time operating from the shotgun. And the Monarchs have decided that they want to talk this one over and have called timeout with 3:29 left to play in the first quarter. So Knapp now facing a 3rd and long 8. A likely passing situation. 2 of his receivers that to keep an eye on. Number 10, Riley Long, whose number we have already called a little bit earlier this evening. And number 11, Andrew Atkinson. 2 senior receivers leading the Lancers in receiving this season. Atkinson in particular, a long threat. Earlier in the week, in talking to Danny Sullivan, he was emphasizing that defensive backs need to prevent those type of long gains. This is a spot on the field where you might expect to see St. Francis with a 7-point lead look to test these Monarch defensive backs. Knapp operating from the shotgun. Delayed handoff and a clever play call. And Keanu Ainu again rumbling forward. And so after spending all that time talking about the possible opportunity to go vertical, the Lancer coaching staff opting for a draw play to their big running back, and he delivers in spades, marching the ball all the way down to the Monarch 13-yard line. Lancers with 2 backs in the backfield. And guess who? Keanu Ainu's rumbling run forward splits the sticks by gaining 5 big yards. The Lancers continuing to grind down the field. Keanu Ainu still on his feet, manages to make a couple of the Monarchs miss, and he rumbles the ball all the way down to the 5-yard line. that play originally designed inside tackle, and then he decided to bust it outside, found a lane, and then some nifty footwork tacked on 5 or 6 more yards, and that now makes it a 1st and goal for the Lancers on the midi 5-yard line. Knapp now under center. Hands the ball off to Kiana Anu again. The senior rumbles forward, and we are waiting. And a little delay on the call, but a touchdown. The 2nd of the night for the Lancers, and the 2nd of the night for their senior running back, number 2. Chris Hahn lines up his 2nd PAT attempt of the evening. Snap is down, and the kick is up and good. And with 1:50 left on the clock here in the first quarter, St. Francis jumps out to a 14-0 lead over Archbishop Midi. So Greg Calcagno and his staff obviously have decided that staying on the ground against the Monarch defense is where their money is going to be invested tonight. And thus far, that game plan seems to be working out pretty well. And in truth, over the last couple of weeks, the Monarchs have had something of a problem stopping the run. Pass coverage, as always, an excellent strength for this Midi defense. But even last week up on Skyway Drive, the defense showing a few cracks against the run. And they will have to come up with some answers in a hurry, as they're now 2 touchdowns to the bad. Still here in the first quarter. Number 3, Ben Kim, and number 10, Danny Scudero, are back to receive Chris Hahn's 3rd kickoff of the evening. And this one is driven a little bit longer. And the kick trickles out of bounds. And so after that ball trickles out of bounds, the Monarchs now starting out at their own 35-yard line. A.J. Senezal, the lone setback. Senezal takes a delayed handoff, and he's met right away. 2nd time tonight that the Lancers have sniffed out that play. Ofi Tuialela on the tackle. That cost the Monarchs 3 yards, and it'll bring up a 2nd and 13. Senezal remains the lone back. 2 receivers split top and bottom. And that pass complete to Ben Kim. Good for 8 yards. And that'll bring up a 3rd and 5 inside of a minute left here in the first quarter. Hard count by Towers draws the Lancers offsides, and that 5 yards might be enough to move the sticks, and it certainly is. So without even taking a snap, the Monarchs pick up a first down. Ball advanced out to the 46. That'll bring up a 1st and 10. 3 receivers at the top of your screen this time. Kim, Scudero, and Butler. Again, Senezal, the lone back. Play fake to Senezal. Towers pulls it down, makes his way upfield, and picks up 5 or 6. So whether or not that was a design play, Wills Towers seeing an opening and picks up a cool 6 yards on first down, brings up a 2nd and 4. Butler and Scudero at the top of the screen. Senezal again with a delayed handoff, and this time rumbles forward for about 2 yards. And that'll bring up a 3rd and 2 as the clock winds down. And quarter 1 is in the books. So a tough start for the Monarchs. And after 1 quarter, it's St. Francis 14, Archbishop Mitty nothing. We'll be right back on AMHS Live. Welcome back to Foothill College as we get set for the 2nd quarter. Out there in AMHS Live U2 land, junior women's soccer goalkeeper Haley Foreman tuning in to the broadcast tonight. Haley, we see you. Hope you're having a good time watching tonight's game. Towers. Delayed handoff causes a fumble, and Towers manages to cover up. But that's going to cost the Monarchs all of that yardage and then some that they had gained in the last couple of plays. So another miscue ends what had been a promising drive for Archbishop Mitty, and staring 4th and 12 in the face, junior Dylan O'Lean is out to punt. Number 16, Bryce Luna, back to receive. O'Lean gets his kick off. A high bouncer that goes out just inside the 20-yard line. Lancers will take over in their own half. So a couple of promising drives this evening by the Monarchs. Wills Towers connecting with his receivers. Very little going on in the run game, though, and you have to credit St. Francis with doing a great job of forcing the Monarchs to go to the pass. And then a couple of miscues, a blocked punt, and then that fumble that effectively ended the last drive, forcing the punt by O'Lean. Keanu Ainu on the carry. In the same I formation again. Knapp under center. Play fakes. And that pass attempt to Ned Regelis just a little bit long. And that'll bring up a 3rd and about 7. And again, an interesting play call opportunity in front of the Lancers here. They've had nothing but success with the ball on the ground. But now with a 2-touchdown lead, it'll be interesting to see if Greg Calcagno and his staff decide to try something a little bit different here. Knapp lines up in the shotgun this time. And lots of movement all over the place. That looks like procedure. And a false start is the call. That's going to cost the Lancers 5 yards and will move them back to a 3rd and 12. The ball at their own 18. So it's an opportunity here for the Monarchs to get a stop and flip the field if they can manage to stop the Lancers from converting here on 3rd down. The sophomore quarterback Knapp in the shotgun. Steps back to pass. He's rushed out, manages to avoid the first tackle, and he rumbles forward very close to that 1st down. So the sophomore Knapp, looking downfield, seeing nothing, excellent pass coverage by the Monarchs, hauled the ball down, found a seam to his right, and then eluded a couple of tacklers and managed to get close to the sticks. And in fact, that 12-yard gain is good enough for a Lancer 1st down. So there again, an opportunity eludes the Monarchs on the busted play and scramble by Knapp. The Lancers continue to pound the ball forward. Keanu Ainu's carry, again, a great run, but there are flags down, and this looks like a hold. And if that's the case, Mitty will catch a break here because the senior tailback has been a handful all night. And that is exactly the case, as the ball will be marched back 10 yards. A lot of credit has to be given beyond Keanu Ainu's running to his offensive line, who are doing a great job up front of getting off the ball and staying with their blocks to open holes for the senior tailback. And thus far, the Monarchs struggling to find an answer to contain this Lancer running game. Knapp under center. Hands off. And that time, Keanu Ainu brought down after a short gain. Bring up The 2nd and 11.
To the 29-yard line. 5-yard gain, 2nd and 11.
Two backs behind Knapp in the eye. And Keanu Anu again rumbling forward. A spin move and some second effort gains the senior enough yardage to move the sticks again, and the Lancers continuing this theme of grinding forward. There is nothing fancy at all about what St. Francis is doing, but that does not make it any less effective. And the Lancers dominating the line of scrimmage right now and giving their senior tailback lots of options to find space.
Timeout, St. Francis. This is their first of the half. They have 2 remaining.
And quarterback Greg Calcagno, head coach Greg Calcagno, has decided that he wants to talk this one over with 7:18 left on the clock. So we mentioned earlier that the last couple of games for Mitty have been testing ones for the defense. All year long, the defensive backs and the pass coverage has been outstanding. But in the last couple of games, the Monarchs have struggled to contain the running game of their opponents. They're up against an offense tonight. Greg Calcagno and his staff running a very well-drilled, well-oiled machine here. Content to give the ball to their senior tailback and open holes for him to exploit. And the Monarchs will be searching for answers. Knapp's pass, number 11, Andrew Atkinson, is complete, but a flag is thrown by the line judge. He relays the information to our head referee. And there is an ineligible receiver downfield, and so that completion will not count. The St. Francis coaching staff trying to get clarification on that call. Penalty has been finally assessed. And after that 5-yard penalty, repeat first down, this time 1st and 15. Knapp under center. Keanu Anu again rumbling forward, but that time tripped up in the backfield. Maybe gained a yard on that. But the Monarchs getting some penetration that time to bring the senior tailback down before he could find an opening to exploit. Bring up a 2nd and 13. Knapp steps back. Completing a short pass to Atkinson, who spins back infield and then tacks on almost 20 yards on that reception. I mentioned earlier, Atkinson, a real threat in the open field and also a threat to stretch the field with outstanding speed. A good open field runner. Both of those things demonstrated on that last play, turning a very short pass into nearly 20-yard gain and another first down for the Lancers. Knapp hands off to his tailback once again, breaks through a tackle, and this time rumbles forward for about 12 yards and another first down. So Keanu Anu's night continues essentially unabated. And the Lancers in the eye again. Knapp's handoff goes to Keanu Anu, and he rumbles forward for about 4 yards. Of course, the other byproduct of this over the course of the evening is that the Monarch defense is spending a lot of time on the field. And the cumulative effect of that over 4 quarters is not what Danny Sullivan and his coaching staff are hoping for. Knapp under center. High formation in the backfield. Handoff goes to Keanu Nehu again. He moves the ball forward about 4 yards. Let's call that 3 yards. And that'll bring up a 3rd and 5. Hand off to the tailback again, rumbles forward. Met at the line of scrimmage. And picks up about 2 yards. That's going to bring up a 4th and 3. And Greg Calcagno is going to have an interesting decision to make here with 14 points on the board and a run game that seems to be hitting on all cylinders. You'd have to imagine that they'll roll the dice here and try to pick up the first down. And that indeed looks like what their decision is, as Knapp is under center. Delayed play fake. He's got a receiver open, and the pass is complete for another Lancer touchdown. Number 10, Riley Long. So again, you'd have to give a lot of credit to the Lancer coaching staff. They've been pounding the ball from the I position the majority of the evening. Knapp with a great play fake to freeze the Monarch defense, and then a lovely lofted ball into the right corner of the end zone that Riley Long went up, made the catch in traffic, did a great job to come down with the ball. And after Chris Hahn's point after attempt, it's now St. Francis 21, Archbishop Midi 0. So with 3:05 left in the second quarter, a lot of work ahead during halftime, and the coaching staff for the Monarchs have their work cut out for them to try and stop the bleeding here. And in truth, the team is not playing badly at all. They are just up against a difficult matchup in terms of the offense that Greg Calcaño's Lancers are executing at this point. And then on offense, the Monarchs have actually moved the ball well this evening, but unfortunately, a couple of turnovers and a couple of ill-timed penalties have killed drives, and they find themselves 21 points behind heading into halftime. Junior place kicker Chris Hahn has the ball on the tee, and this time he kicks away. Danny Scudero fields the ball at his own 1-yard line. He breaks a tackle and is met hard. Braden Ellis. Check that. We'll get a confirmation on that tackle. But Scudero broke a couple of tackles, got the ball out to his own 26-yard line, and then was met head on by kick coverage by the Lancers. Towers back to pass, fades out of the pocket. He's got a receiver open. And Danny Scudero with another big catch. So Towers has aired the ball out several times tonight and gained big chunks of yardage. And if the Monarchs can put something together here and get on the board before the intermission, it would go a long way to shifting a little bit of the momentum. Play fake, Towers back to pass. Airs one out down long. He's got a receiver. That's Scudero, and you will not catch him from behind. And just like that, Archbishop Midi answers. So Towers doing an excellent job, a great play fake, then a pump fake, let the route develop, and then found Scudero again in the seam. They have exploited that play several times this year, and the coaching staff obviously seeing something in the Lancer defensive coverage. And when Danny Scudero catches a ball like that in the open field, you are not going to catch him from behind. Roddy Gallup's kick is up and good, and with a couple of long passes and a quick strike, the Monarchs answer. And with 2:15 on the clock, it's now St. Francis 21, Midi 7. So a little resilience there by the Monarchs. And this is endemic of the kind of attitude that this team has shown all year long. A year ago, this team ended the season with 1 win and 9 losses. And one would have to say that the kind of character that they've exhibited was flatly not present at that point. But this group of seniors in particular have really done a great job of turning the culture and the mindset of the program around. They do not look at a scoreboard and ever think that they are out of the game, and that last drive is evidence of that. And so with 2:15 left in the half, Rowdy Gallup tees this one up. Bryce Luna, number 16, back to receive along with Andrew Atkinson. Gallup's kick is a high hanger. Atkinson will receive the ball at his own 6-yard line, turns up, picks up a couple blocks, evades a tackle. And Malachi Marshall, number 2, finally corrals Atkinson after a nifty return. He advances the ball out. And the Lancers take over at their own 37-yard line. So a clutch tackle there by number 2, Malachi Marshall, to prevent that from turning into an even bigger return. And the Lancers go to work with 2:08 left in the half. Mitty now needs to come up with a defensive stop here to get into the locker room with a little momentum. Knapp operating from the shotgun, delayed handoff. And this time, nothing doing. Keanan Anu that time met well behind the line of scrimmage, wrapped up, and thrown for a big loss.
4-yard tackle for a loss on that play, back to the 33. 2nd and 14 coming up.
And that play resulted in a 4-yard loss for the Lancers. And so the Monarchs now have an opportunity here to take that Danny Scudero touchdown and turn it not only into some momentum, but a confidence builder. A defensive stand here might even result with them getting the ball back one more time before the end of the half. But you can certainly sense the energy on the Monarchs sideline and in the stands is anything but down, despite trailing by 14 points. And there's a lot of football left to be played in this game. Lancers come back out from that timeout with 3 receivers at the bottom of the screen. Knapp lines up in the shotgun. Airs one out. And nothing doing. Nothing doing because cornerback Stephen Anaya, number 27, one of the best cover men in the WCAL, running stride for stride, timing that play perfectly to deny the Lancers a huge gain, and now putting them into a 3rd and 14 situation. So the term big play, often cliche, but at this point, this is a big play for both these teams in terms of the momentum of this game. Knapp takes the snap out of the shotgun, makes a completed pass. And Riley Long evades a tackle and takes it to the house. That play was set up extremely well by the Lancers as Long, on the snap, took a step back from the line, took a short pass while his receiver core teammates set up a blocking screen in front of him. He evaded 2 tacklers and then turned on the jets to take that ball down the sideline and into the end zone for yet another Lancer touchdown. Hahn's kick is up and good. And that makes it St. Francis 28, Archbishop Mitty 7. So the last 5 minutes has been a story of big plays. First, the Towers to Scudero touchdown to get the Monarchs back into the game. And then Aaron Knapp responding with that nifty catch and run to senior wide receiver Riley Long. And Long displaying some speed of his own to find the end zone. .140 left on the clock. And Chris Hahn will put the ball on the tee again, which he has done several times this evening. Ben Kim, number 3, and Danny Scudero back to receive this kick. So there's still plenty of time for the Monarchs to answer before halftime. A squib kick is fielded by Malachi Marshall. And the senior rumbles forward, gets the ball out near the 40-yard line. Takes about 7 seconds off the clock. So the Monarchs will take over at their own, make it 37-yard line. Wills Towers joined by A.J. Senazal in the backfield. Charlie Butler and Danny Scudero at the bottom of your screen. Ben Kim at the top. Towers as a receiver. And Caden Allard, unfortunately, unable to hold that one. And bring up a 2nd and 10. So Butler again, split to the left, this time by himself, with a package of 3 receivers at the top of the screen. Motion goes to Scudero. He takes a handoff, breaks it to the outside, then back to the inside, rumbles forward, and he picks up about 7 yards. And we'll make that maybe 6. Brings up a 3rd and call it a long 3. Towers steps back, steps out of the pocket, and rushes forward. Lost the ball, but he had already been ruled down as he had entered into a skid. His slide being ruled down before the ball squirted out, and that moves the ball forward far enough for a first down. Clock continues to run just inside of 50 seconds right now. Towers takes the snap, looking downfield. Takes his time, he's flushed out of the pocket, finds a secondary receiver, but nothing going. Ben Kim had split off his route, but unfortunately Towers overthrows number 3. And that will stop the clock with 30.2 seconds left. Monarchs staring at a 2nd and 10. A little shout out to the sideline. Father Francis, the Monarchs chaplain, tuning in tonight. Always good to have him viewing the broadcast. Towers finds a receiver. Charlie Butler with a big catch. And that will stop the clock long enough to move the chains up with 22.2 left on it. And Towers steps under center and spikes the ball to kill the clock. 21 seconds left. Monarchs will be looking at a 2nd and 10 from the Lancer 34-yard line. Charlie Butler again split far to the left with Scudero in the slot. Ben Kim up at the top of your screen, and Caden Allard lines up at tight end. Towers flushed out of the pocket, scrambling. And he finds Charlie Butler, and that will be good enough for a first down. And Towers spikes the ball with just under 10 seconds, 9.7 to be precise, left in the half. And so again, the Monarchs having their way offensively. Great play calling and moving down the field. And with 9 seconds left, you'd think that they will have one shot, maybe two, at the end zone. And they run a triple receiver package to the top of your screen. Scudero, Allard, and Ben Kim. Towers airs one out. And that play looked to be a mix-up on routes as the ball sails long and incomplete. And that'll bring up a 3rd and 10, 4.3 left on the clock. The Monarchs will get one more shot at this. A.J. Senezal remains in the backfield. Senezal entered the game in the first quarter, replacing senior Justice Tuolavu. And the Monarchs call their final timeout of the half. I'm going to talk this one over. So a frustrating half thus far for Coach Danny Sullivan and his Charges. They have done well with the ball and managed to move it, but have precious few points to show for those yards gained. And on defense, as has been a familiar refrain all night, the Lancers grinding and pounding the ball out of that I backfield. And posting 28 big points. 2 off the run and 2 passing touchdowns. So here we go, 4.3 left on the clock. Towers from the shotgun. He's got Charlie Butler to his left. Hard count. And the Monarchs will pick up 5 yards as the Lancers, a little over anxious, jump offside. That will shorten the field. And now the Monarchs will have a 2nd and 5 from the Lancer 19, but obviously they are looking for more than a first down. The end zone calls a mere 19 yards from the line of scrimmage. 3 receivers to the top of the screen. Ben Kim, Danny Scudero, and Caden Allard. Charlie Butler at the bottom is the lone receiver there. Towers attempts to make something out of nothing as he was being brought down. Manages to get the pass off, but it's deflected. And just like that, half of this game is in the books. So at halftime here from Foothill College, St. Francis leads the Monarchs 28-7. We'll be back right after this.
I am a Monarch.
Dance team at Archbishop Mitty, the Archbishop Mitty Royals.
All right, fans, tonight halftime show begins with the best dance team in Northern California, the Archbishop Mitty Royals.
Rule number one, never be number two. Rule number one, never be number two.
So the Archbishop Mitty Royals doing their thing at halftime. But wait, if you like that dancing, you're going to like some music, because up next we have the craziest band in the WCAL, the Archbishop Mitty Pep Band. Here they come.
Archbishop Mitty Scatterband. Tonight, we want to remember all the good times this football season. First up, we want to thank the Pit for their energy and enthusiasm this year. We love jamming out to Sweet Caroline or belting Let It Go with you all each game. It's been a real P.A. also like to thank tonight the Royals, who made all our sweet dreams come true this year. With their energizing performances and non-stop support from the sidelines, you guys are truly the dancing queens of the school. We also want to thank our football team, who this year turned the tables with an impressive 7-2 record to date, bringing their best efforts and skills to the field. You make us all proud to be Monarchs. We believe that you will win. Tonight, thank you to all our scatterband seniors out here tonight at their last home football game. Especially the band seniors out on the field tonight. Anshul, Maggie, Maria, Arvin, Ivan, Alice, Damien, Bryce, Chase, Srujan, both Ryans, Jonathan, for everything these last 4 years. Special thanks to our drum major this year, Anya, for her leadership throughout the year. We love you. No matter where you go after high school, we hope you don't stop believing. We want to thank all seniors for your work this season, whether you're cheering or playing on the field. Go Monarchs, and we'll see you next year.
Well, there goes the scatter, man. They're scattering right now with about 3 minutes left in halftime. Great job by the band and, of course, the Archbishop Mitty Royals providing their unique dance skills. This game, not the only one going on tonight in the WCAL. Up in San Francisco, St. Ignatius is playing host to crosstown rivals Archbishop Reardon, and at halftime, the Wildcats leading the Crusaders 28-0. SI well in command of that game. Meanwhile, Bellarmine is trailing 12-7. At halftime versus Valley Christian High School. That game having just gone into halftime. The Valley Christian Warriors scoring a touchdown with about 7 seconds left in the half. Warriors tried a two-point conversion that did not succeed, and they entered the locker room with a 12-7 win, or 12-7 lead over the Bells. The other game in the West Catholic League will be taking place tomorrow, 2 o'clock, up in San Mateo, where Sarah, the Padres, will be playing host to the Fighting Irish of Sacred Heart Cathedral. And as we talked about at the head end of this game, playoff seeding is at stake tonight all across the league. The likely outcome at this point is that 3 or 4 of the West Catholic Athletic League teams, half of the league, should make the open division. Those 4 teams, of course, being league leaders Sarah, who are currently riding a tide of an unbeaten season to what looks to be a championship here in the West Catholic Athletic League. And if results stay the way they are right now, St. Francis would lock up a second-place finish. The Monarchs look good for an open division bid. And Sacred Heart Cathedral, with a solid season and a very good chance of also getting into the open division. So all 4 of those teams look to be in good shape. The draw, of course, for the CCS football playoffs will take place on Sunday. And once that information is available, you can find it on the CCS website. Both teams are back out of the locker room right now, warming up. And the Monarchs will have to find some solutions on defense in particular. The thorn in their side has been the Lancers' number 2, Kingston Keanu Anu. Shout out to Pat Surgison, who alerted us to the fact that we've been alluding to the big tailback as a senior. He is, in fact, a sophomore, which bodes well for Greg Calcagno and his staff, but certainly not well for the rest of the WCAL, as the tailback has 2 more years ahead of him. And by the looks of it, will be a handful for defenses all over the league in the section for the next 2 seasons. But right now, the overriding task facing the Monarchs is figuring out a way to stop number 2 and the rest of the Lancer offense and see if they can generate some offense of their own. About 1 minute to go before we start the second half. We'll take a short pause here and be back with you in just a minute. You're watching Archbishop Mitty football on AMHS Live.
I am a Monarch.
And welcome back, everybody. About to get the second half underway here at Foothill College. And the Monarchs, who started out the game by receiving the opening kickoff from the Lancers, will return the favor now as number 17, Roddy Gallup, tees up the ball and prepares to get it underway for the second half.
Number 17, Ronnie Galeb, to kick off the second half for the Monarchs.
Andrew Atkinson, number 11, and Bryce Luna, number 16, back to receive for the Lancers. Gallup's kick is a deep driving kick that forces Atkinson into his own end zone, and that'll result in a touchback, and the Lancers will start things out here in the second half at their own 20-yard line. So let's see what the defense has cooked up at halftime to try and stop this high-powered Lancer running game, driven by the engine that is Kingston Kianuainu. And the sophomore takes the first handoff, bounces outside, and finds nothing there. So Kiana Ainu thrown for about a 1-yard loss on the opening play here of the second half. An encouraging start. And the Monarchs will certainly take whatever they can get at this point. The linebacking core in particular strung that play out well. lines up under center again with an I formation behind him. Takes the snap, hands off to Kiana Inu. Surges forward and then breaks outside, eludes 2 tacklers, and he breaks this one for a long gain. About a 17-yard pickup. And that's about the 3rd time tonight that trying to bust a play between tackles, he then bounces outside to his left and has turned what would have been a short gain into a long one and a first down. So after being stopped on the first play from scrimmage for a loss, he more than makes up for that with a big gain and another Lancer first down. Knapp hands the ball off again to his tailback, who busts up the middle and into the secondary. Tackle by Connor Elliott, number 22. But not before number 2 gains another Lancer first down. The Monarchs looking for a way to plug these gaps. And thus far not being entirely successful at it. This time the ball carrier is number 16, Bryce Luna, and he's met behind this line of scrimmage by Connor Elliott and a host of Monarchs who bring Elliott down for a loss. And Luna leaves the game, replaced by Kiana Inu. So the Lancers' leading rusher, after taking a quick 1-play break, is right back on the field. Aaron Knapp, sophomore quarterback, back under center. Hands off to his tailback. Met at the line of scrimmage, and then second effort surges his way forward to pick up about 5 yards. Make that 4. And that'll bring up about a 3rd and 6. Greg Calcagno sees something that he does not like and decides to burn one of his timeouts with a 21-point lead to regroup his offense together, and that'll give the Monarchs a chance to reset things defensively. 7:56 left here in the 3rd quarter. So the Monarchs break their huddle on that timeout. Now the first group back out on the field. Meanwhile, the Lancers discussing things, taking their time over by their own bench, and now they make their way back out to the line of scrimmage. Kiana Inu, the tailback, in the eye, with Knapp back under center. And keep an eye out here at the bottom of your screen, number 11, Andrew Atkinson, split wide to Knapp's right. Quick flare pass this time to Riley Long. And Long is met by a whole group of Monarchs, led by number 5, Diego Aguilar. And so for the first time tonight, Chris Hahn will drop back to punt for the Lancers. Number 8, Charlie Butler, is back to receive Hahn's punt. Hahn with a nifty little delayed punt, and then gets a favorable roll, an extremely favorable roll, as the ball is downed on the Monarch 2-yard line. And so something of an unorthodox technique there by the junior punter and place kicker, but a great roll. And Hahn put a lovely spiral on that ball, and it definitely played to his advantage. So the Monarchs penned deep in their own half to open the second half, their first possession. Wills Towers takes a snap in his own end zone. Quick pass, and he finds his receiver, Ben Kim. Is tackled just short of the first down. So a quick 2-step drop and pass gets a little breathing room for the Monarchs. Leaves a little pressure on the senior quarterback. And referees decide that Kim's forward progress earned a first down. And the sticks have been moved. And now that that reset has happened, the Monarchs now take over at their own 15 with a 1st and 10. Another quick pass. And Ben Kim again. Some nifty footwork and great hands, which Kim has been displaying all season long. When the Monarchs need a possession receiver to make these type of catches, they look to number 3, Ben Kim. Towers looks to his left, and then comes back once again to his right, and you guessed it, number 3, Ben Kim. Kim wrestled back. He should be given some forward progress there. And that moves the ball nearly to a first down. And once again, the officiating crew decides that Kim's forward progress earned the Monarchs another first down. So 2 first downs by number 3 on clutch catches. And they now have the ball out their own 25-yard line. Towers drops back to pass, looking downfield. He's got a man open. That's Charlie Butler. And a great catch. Ball comes loose. But the officials ruled that Butler was down by contact before that ball popped out. They're talking it over right now, and the Lancers seem to feel that they earned a takeaway. A couple of the officials having a pointed conversation about what each of them saw, and now the white hat has ruled that ball was being bobbled and that Butler never actually had control, so they'll march the sticks and the ball back, and pass is ruled as an incompletion. Will bring up a 2nd and 10.
Second down and 10 at the 24.
Butler lines up, split to the far bottom part of your screen. Scudero in the slot. Allard and Kim north of the snap. Towers chased out of the pocket to his left, and he sails that one safely out of bounds, but that'll bring up a 3rd and 10 from their own 24-yard line. So Towers with plenty of time back there and getting the protection he needs, but the Lancers tightening up that pass coverage. And the senior quarterback not finding any options that he liked and simply had to throw that ball away. He takes the snap on 3rd down, drops back to pass, flushed out of the pocket to his left, now scrambles back to his right, looks downfield, he's got a man open. And Butler unable to hold on to that. And so after getting themselves out of jail deep in their own half of the field, that drive stalls, and Dylan O'Lean will come to the field to punt away. Bryce Luna, the lone punt returner. O'Lean with a low end-over-end kick takes a favorable bounce. And Luna thought about picking it up for a moment, then thought better of it and stepped over a bouncing ball. A little dangerous there if that ball had taken a awkward bounce. Could have resulted in a fumble, as it is. The ball is downed at the Lancer 35-yard line, and the Monarchs will come back out on defense after an effective defensive series this last time. They'll look to see if they can stop the Lancers again. Knapp has a receiver in motion. Hand off to the tailback. Kingston Keanu Anu, as he has done all night, following his blockers and then showing some creativity in the open field to pick up a 1st down. Sophomore is the lone setback this time behind Knapp. Player in motion. And Keanu Anu again with a big 18-yard pickup. Shades of the first half rearing their head again as the sophomore tailback busts 2 long plays, one to the right, then one to the left. And just like that, the ball is at the Monarch 30-yard line, and it's 1st and 10 Lancers. Riley Long now split to the bottom of your screen with Atkinson to the top. Knapp flushed out of the pocket. And he finds Atkinson off a scramble to his left. Again, making a busted play into another first down.
11-yard gain to the 19. First and 10.
Lone setback behind the sophomore quarterback. Man in motion. Handoff is broken back to the left-hand side. And Keanu Ainu picks up about 8 yards. Initially thought about running to his right, nothing going there. And planted hard, pivoted off that plant, found a little daylight, and stretched it into an 8-yard gain. That'll bring up a 2nd and 2 at the Monarch 11-yard line. 2:40 on the clock here in the third. Ainu again, the lone setback. But a timeout has been called. This time the Lancers calling another timeout. One would have to think at this point that another touchdown here would give them, while not an insurmountable lead, it would certainly be a tall mountain to climb for the Monarchs, particularly with time running out here in the third quarter. So Greg Calcagno and his staff making sure that the offense knows what's at stake and that everybody's on the same page with this play call. Staring at a 2nd down and 2 from the Monarch 11. Teams come back out. Atkinson and Long both split to the bottom of your screen. Keanu Ainu, the lone setback. Play action. Knapp back of the end zone. Has his receiver. And Ned Regelis hauls that in for another Lancer touchdown. So again, another great play call by the coaching staff. Their two primary receivers, Long and Atkinson, split to the right. And the play fake to the big tailback, again, freezing the linebacking core and setting up a individual one-on-one matchup for Regalis, who hauled in the pass. And after Hahn's PAT is good, a glance at the scoreboard tells us it's Lancers 35, Monarchs 7, with 2:18 remaining to play here in the third quarter. We'll be back with more WCAL football right after this. And welcome back, everybody. The Lancers' Chris Hahn, who has put the ball down on the tee more than a couple times tonight, prepares to kick away again. Ben Kim and Danny Scudero back to receive Hahn's kick. squibbing ball picked up. Ben Kim with a couple of nifty moves, forced out of bounds, but manages to get the ball out over the 30-yard line. Decent field position for Wills Towers and the offense to come out.
Out to the 32-yard line, 1st and 10.
And the senior quarterback and his offensive teammates will look to try and get something going here with just over 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Towers hands off to A.J. Senezal, and he is met in the backfield. For about a 2-yard loss. Monarchs have called that play 2 or 3 times tonight, and each time they've been tackled for a loss. It'll bring up a 2nd and 12 for Wills Towers. 2 receivers split either side. Towers back to pass. He's got a receiver open. Danny Scudero making the catch. And we'll wait to see the spot on this. Looks to be enough for a first down. And in fact it is. So Scudero with another reception for first down. Brings the ball out to the 42. Towers steps back to pass. He has time, and he finds his receiver over the middle, Caden Allard. Allard with a tough catch in traffic. He hangs on and picks up the first down. And the tight end showing good strength to hold on to that play fake. That pass is picked off. Number 32, Mac Morocco, sitting in coverage there and really read Towers' eyes well. Just sat back in his zone and waited for the pass to be thrown, stepped in and made a very good catch to bring what had been developing into a decent drive for the Monarchs to an end. And the Monarchs now back on the field with their defense as the Lancers take over from their own 14-yard line. Make that the 24. So Keanu Anu brought down for a short gain. Tika Reed on the tackle. Makes it 2nd and 8. And Lancers look content to let the clock run out here in the third quarter, which it does. So quarter number 3 in the books. And with 12 minutes left to play in this game, the score reads St. Francis 35, Archbishop Mitty 7. We'll be right back here on AMHS Live. And we're back to start up quarter number 4 here at Foothill College. 2nd and 8 as the Lancers come back out to start us here in the final quarter of play. Knapp under center, hands off to his tailback. And Keanu Anu brought down again for a short gain. Bring up a 3rd and 6. So the Lancers with wide receivers right and left. Keanu Anu, the lone setback. Knapp with a play fake. Tries to air one out long, and that ball is incomplete. And that should bring out the punting team and Chris Hahn as the Monarchs manage to get a stop to start the 4th quarter. And number 8, Charlie Butler, back to receive for Mitty. And the Lancers hoping to draw the Monarchs off sides, and instead they will march back 5 yards for a delay of game call. So an interesting ploy by St. Francis. Hoping to gain enough to make it worthwhile going for a first down. Instead, that ball marched back now and brings up a 4th and 11. And Hahn this time certainly looking to punt away. Low looping kick. Again, a favorable bounce to begin with, and now the ball comes to a rest and is down by the Lancers at the Monarchs' 44-yard line, where they will take over and look to get something going. Senezal remains the lone setback. Takes a delayed handoff and busts a big gain. And that's the first time this evening that Senezal has displayed some of that running acumen that he did early in the season. The line doing a great job there to open up the initial hole. And then AJ sniffing his way through and bobbing and weaving. And the Monarchs pick up their first rushing first down of the evening. Towers now takes the snap, back to pass. Moves to his right and heads for the sideline. Picks up about 5 yards. And that'll bring up a 2nd and 7. So Towers stepping out a little shy. Senior quarterback doing a great job there to find Danny Scudero in traffic. Number 10 brings the pass down. Good for another first down. Three receivers to the top of the screen with Ben Kim set alone. And Kim running another of those out routes that he has made a meal of this season. Little comeback pattern. Catch and run moves the ball. A 9-yard gain that time for Ben Kim. 2nd and 1. Handoff is to Senezal, sweeping to his left. That play is strung out well by the Lancers, but Senezal makes something of it. Little second effort there, and AJ picks up another first down. So the Monarchs doing a good job here on this set of plays. Triple receivers, bottom of the screen. Towers with a quick pass to the top of the screen. Charlie Butler drawing single coverage there. Does a nice job of cutting inside and tacking on a few more yards. That'll bring up a 2nd and 2 from the Lancer 10-yard line. Towers rolls to his right. He's got a receiver. And that's a touchdown. A little bit of a delayed call there. But Danny Scudero with a nifty catch and run as he stretched for the pylon. And after thinking about it for a moment, the officiating crew decided that Scudero had broken the plane. And that'll be a touchdown. The second of the night for Danny Scudero. And number 17, Roddy Gallup, is out to try and tack on the PAT. Snap, the kick is up, and no good. So Roddy did not look like he got a clean contact on that ball, and it looped. Looked like it might just crawl over the crossbar, but unfortunately, instead it hit the upright on the left side and bounced back out. And that's been the way things have been going tonight for the Monarchs, unfortunately. So the PAT is not successful. And that makes the score St. Francis 35, Archbishop Mitty 13 with 8:44 left to play. Well, football playoffs coming up are not the only postseason going on right now. Women's volleyball playoffs have been rolling on. The CCS Open Division Championship game will take place tomorrow at Gunn High School, and your Archbishop Mitty Monarchs will be taking on the same St. Francis Lancers. That game, the match set to start at 5:30 tomorrow at Gunn High School, and it should be a real cracker. Field hockey also in action tomorrow as the Monarchs open up the CCS playoff run with an 11 a.m. game versus St. Ignatius. That game set at Los Gatos High School. Gallup with a good attempt at an onside kick, but it takes a favorable bounce for the Lancers, and they retain possession. And that'll bring Aaron Knapp and the offense back out for St. Francis. Junior Bryce Luna now the tailback. Motion right. Handoff is to Luna. Follows his blockers to the right. And breaks into the secondary for a nifty 8 or 9 yard gain. And, of course, the problem with defending against a team that runs the ball this much is that you, frankly, just get tired after a while. And that is what the Monarchs are facing right now. The defense has been on the field for longer than Coach Sullivan would have liked. And the Lancers doing what they have done all night long, which is to grind the ball, principally with their tailback, and then mix up occasionally with a pass, which Knapp tries to do here. And again, nifty footwork by the sophomore. And a late flag and a second flag. Referees are talking this one over, and usually that type of flag on a run like that is either a late hit or an unsportsmanlike conduct. They're talking this one over. And there are actually two penalties. And the upshot of that are offsetting penalties, which cancel one another out. And so Knapp's run results in a first down. A little bit of a lengthy discussion by the officiating crew, and they decided that both teams were at fault, which effectively nullifies the flags. Knapp under center with a single tailback, who remains Luna. Delayed handoff to Luna, rages forward, breaks a tackle, and gets out to about the 35-yard line. So Luna, who has been acting as the backup for Kiana Inu most of the evening, has now assumed the principal ball carrier role. But again, as we discussed, this big offensive line has been wearing away at the Monarch defense, and Luna is finding gaps to run into late here in the game with 6:30 left on the clock. And Luna carries again, dances his way forward, and that's good enough for another first down. So for the proponents of fundamental football, this has been a feast for those of you that like the ground game, because St. Francis has run the ball effectively all night long and then has done a great job of occasionally mixing up passing plays that have caught the Monarchs flat-footed. Timeout is called. And during that timeout, happened to notice that there's been a quarterback switch. Aaron Knapp, who was shaken up a little bit on that scramble with the offsetting penalties, Knapp has left the field, and number 19, Braden Ellis, a 6'4" senior, who is their third-string quarterback, is now under center for the Lancers. Let's hope that Knapp is not shaken up too badly, because the young man has played an excellent game this evening. And with Ellis under center now, Bryce Luna remains the lone setback. Handoff goes to Luna, dances his way through a hole, springs out to the right, still on his feet. And the play is finally whistled dead, but not before Luna picks up a big chunk of real estate. And that'll leave the Lancers with a 2nd and 3. Ellis remains the quarterback. 2 backs in the I formation. Some nifty running that time. Luna looked to be caught for a loss initially, pivoted and spun to evade the initial tackle, and then danced his way through a couple more defenders and managed to pick up another first down. So the backup tailback adding on some yardage of his own in the stats and doing a fine job to help the Lancers try and close this game out here as the clock is winding down and just over 4 minutes left. Luna is the ball carrier again. Met in the backfield, but once again manages to wriggle free and pick up a yard or two. And the Monarchs decide to call timeout with 3:59 on the clock. We talked a little bit about playoffs going on tomorrow. If you are an aquatics fan, the men's and women's water polo teams both in action in CCS playoff action. The men's water polo team will play Woodside High School tomorrow, 10 a.m. That game at Woodside High. Quarterfinals of the CCS championships. Women's water polo will also be in action in the quarterfinals tomorrow in their bracket. They travel to Menlo Atherton and take on MA. That game will begin at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Good luck to both the men's and women's water polo team in the CCS quarterfinals. Ellis hands off to the ball carrier, this time number 37, Diego Ortuondo. And Ortuondo winds his way forward. And the Monarchs call another timeout. And that'll give us enough time to remind everybody out there that if you have a son or daughter that's interested in attending Archbishop Mitty, the annual open house coming up later this month. Archbishop Mitty's annual open house this year being held on Sunday, November 20th, 2022. From 9 a.m. until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll be able to meet many of the faculty, staff, members of the coaching staff and the athletic department, along with many of our students in a variety of extracurricular activities. So come on out. It's open house on November 20th, 9 o'clock at Archbishop Mitty High School. A 3rd and 9 for the Lancers. Handoff that time. And that's Tyler Jimenez. So the Lancers getting some reps in for a number of their ball carriers. with the game secured, or at least seemingly so, with just over 3 minutes and a 35-13 lead. Variety of the reserves now being put in the game. Jimenez, the ball carrier, and he's met it hard in the backfield that time. Connor Elliott, number 22, coming off his outside linebacker spot. Makes a great tackle. And the Monarchs will take over on downs. Just inside of 3 minutes left to play. And this will give us a chance to see Tai Yoshida enter the game, as Wills Towers has seen his last action of the evening. Yoshida filled in for Towers a couple times this year when Wills had been injured. And Yoshida hands off to Jake Nedich. Rumbles forward to pick up about 8 yards. And so a lot of the substitutes now getting an opportunity for some snaps here in the closing moments of this game. Yoshida's pass to Justin Mendez. And that gain is good enough for a first down. Hand off to Nedich. Rumbles forward for a few. And so, barring something completely unforeseen, the Monarchs are going to wrap up the regular season at 7 wins and 3 losses, 4-3 in league. And while these last few downs, Ben Bereznek was the receiver on that one. The last few downs will not affect the outcome of this game. There are some important reps being gained by some of the substitutes. And going into the playoffs, you never know that these plays may come in handy if one of these players has to step up in a playoff elimination situation to assume a bigger role. So Danny Sullivan giving his bench an opportunity to get some minutes, take some snaps against a quality opponent. And gaining these substitutes some valuable experience, which may pay off in the coming weeks as the Monarchs will leave the regular season behind and move on to the playoffs. Yoshida's pass is complete to number 84, Jackson Wright. Wright evaded a tackler. Good enough to pick up a first down and move into Lancer territory. Yoshida takes an awkward snap. Hand off to Nedich. And Jacob wriggles his way back close to the line of scrimmage. 35 seconds left to play here in this game. Play action. Finds his receiver. And unfortunately, Baraznik could not hang on to that. The incompletion, however, does stop the clock with 23.1 left to play. Monarchs staring at a 3rd and 10. Yoshida takes the snap. Play action pass. Steps up. He's got a receiver open, but he sails that one a little bit long, and that ball is picked off. A.J. Griffin hauls in the second Lancer interception of the evening. And after a good return, St. Francis will take over with 9.8 seconds left on the clock, and you would assume at this point that Coach Calcagno would assume victory formation. And by all appearance, that's what we're looking at right now. Braden Ellis returns to the field to take what will undoubtedly be the final snap of this game and the final snap of the regular season. So with that, the 2022 regular season has come to an end, but both of these teams will remain in action and will await Sunday's CCS draw to find out their opponents and locations for the first round of the Open Division, which will start next Friday night. So an outstanding performance tonight by St. Francis, and you have to say that their play calling and execution on offense were nearly flawless as the Lancers spoil the party here on senior night, but do it with an effective mix of running and passing. The Monarchs also moving the ball pretty well tonight. But for a couple of turnovers, this game may have had a different complexion. But as it stands, Archbishop Mitty will end this campaign in the regular season with a 4-3 league record. And while it certainly was not the outcome that Danny Sullivan would have hoped for the last regular season game, their 7-3 overall mark is a far cry from the 1-9 that they were staring down at the end of last season. So hats off to the team and to the coaching staff for an outstanding regular season, and good luck in the playoffs. This is our last broadcast of the 2022 season. From here on out, as we enter the playoffs, these games will be carried on the NFHS network. AMHS Live would like to thank all of the staff who helped put this together. Our executive producer, Pat Kennedy, Associate Athletic Director, Monica Markison, and all of our technical crew. On behalf of all of them and the entire athletic department, this is your host, JT Hanley, saying thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon during basketball season on AMHS Live. Good night.